Right. So we have created so far some procedures. Okay, we have created the stored procedures in what? Let me simply, as of now, let me say it as what? Procedures in what? HANA database. Okay, so we have created the procedures with some with parameters, without parameters, and in that only we discussed about what cursors. Okay, now the next thing is, once we know how to create the procedures in HANA database, we need to consume that procedures. Okay, we need to access that procedures from the what? I can access that procedures in two ways. Okay, so we can consume these procedures in ABAP reports in two ways. Okay, so what are those two ways? One is by using database procedure proxy. Okay, another is by using ADBC. Okay, by using ADBC we do it. uh, is my voice is clear to everyone? What about others? Is it clear to everyone? Yeah,
Yes, Sridhar. Yes,
yeah.
clear.
Karthik, please relog in. If you have any issues, please relog in. Okay. Yeah, please log in only once, na? You're logged in twice, Karthik. Okay. So here we have created the process in our database. We can consume the process in ABAP reports in two ways. One is by using database procedure proxies. Another is by using what? ADBC. Okay. So if you take the concept of this database procedure proxy, what you have done is this is your what? HANA procedure. This is HANA procedure which we created in the what? Database. Okay, so this we have created as part of what? Database layer. Database layer, nothing but what? SAP HANA database. Okay, done. Okay, after creating this HANA procedure in the database, now what is the requirement now? We need to consume it in the ABAP report. So if you take this first approach by using this database procedure proxy, what we need to do is we need to expose this particular ANA procedure. Okay, we need to expose this ANA procedure as a what? ABAP dictionary database procedure proxy. Okay, we need to expose it as expose as what? ABAP dictionary database procedure proxy. Okay, we need to expose this particular what? ANA procedure as what? ABAP dictionary database procedure. How do we do it? There is a different discussion. Leave it. Okay, we need to expose it. Okay, so where do we do it? We do it as part of your. So once we expose, it will be available in what? Application layer. I mean to say what? Application server of what? ABAP. Done. So once it is exposed, what you have to do now? We need to call this particular database procedure. Okay, so the next step we have to do is we need to call the database procedure. We need to call the database procedure proxy. Okay, this is the next task. This is the next task. Okay, after calling this what as a database procedure proxy, we can what display this to what our GUI. Okay, we can display it to our GUI. So this I'll put it as this is your what Dyne Pro. I mean to say what your GUI, SAP GUI, nothing but what UI layer. Okay, this is your UI layer, user interface layer. So this is what we have to do overall. Am I clear? So first we need to create the what HANA procedure at the database level. Then we need to expose that particular ABAP dictionary as what database procedure proxy. Then we need to call this. Okay, so this is my first step. This is the first step where we are going to create the HANA procedure. Then we are going to expose it. Then we are going to call the database what procedure proxy for exposing that particular data to the what front end systems. That is, it can be a GUI, it can be what UI5 application, whatever it is. Okay, so this is what you have to do in the first approach. Okay, and the next approach is what by using what ADBC. Okay, ABAP database what connectivity, ABAP database connectivity. So what I'll do today is this part I need to do some settings. Okay, so this I'll take in the next class. Today we'll understand about what this ADBC. Okay, so we can also consume the process in ABAP reports by using what ADBC. ADBC stands for what ABAP database connectivity. So what is this ABAP database connectivity is, if you take our traditional ABAP, okay, one second, yeah, if you take our traditional ABAP, so this is your what database, let me represent like this, okay, this is your database, yeah, this is your database. Now this is your ABAP report. Okay, now how can we interact with this particular database? I can interact with this database in two different ways. So this is your ABAP report, ABAP report. So I can interact with this particular database in what two different ways. One is by using what open SQL statements, another is by using what native SQL statements. Suppose if I use this open SQL statement from the ABAP report, when I execute the open SQL statement, okay, this open SQL statement will be sent to a component called as DB interface, database interface, which will convert this particular open SQL to what native SQL. Okay, to convert this open SQL to what native SQL. Then I can also have the provision to use what this particular native SQL. So what is the advantage of using native SQL? Native SQL will directly talk with what database. Okay, so this is what we do in our what traditional ABAP. Most of the cases we'll go for what open SQL only, because we will never go for native SQL, because as an ABAP consultant it may not be possible for all the consultants to know the native SQL statements of each and every database. Each and every database. Initially, customer might use Oracle database. So if I am using native SQL, I should use the native SQL statements which are understood by what Oracle database. In future, if the customer changes his database from Oracle to something like MS SQL, again I need to modify my ABAP report using the native SQL statements, which is understood by what that particular underlying database. Okay, so here it will increase the maintenance cost. In case of native SQL, it will increase the maintenance cost, but if you take performance factor, performance wise native SQL is faster than what open SQL. But again, it is always recommended to go for what OpenSQL, so that you need not worry about what is the underlying database. Irrespective of the database, for any kind of database, I can use the same what OpenSQL statement. So this is what we do in our ABAP reports. Okay, now, yeah, now this is our tradition. Now let me put it like this. This is your HANA database. Let me put this as non-HANA database. Okay, and this is your ABAP report. Okay, so try to understand this. So 1 second. Yeah, this is your HANA database, and this is your what non-HANA database. So let us talk about HANA database. So in this HANA database, what we are going to do, we are going to do some native HANA developments. Okay, we are going to do some native HANA developments. We are going to create the views, we are going to create the procedures, we are going to create different types of what database objects. Okay, those database objects, okay, those database objects we need to consume. Okay, we need to consume from what our ABAP reports. So what we can do is, what SAP suggests is, you use an API called as what ADBC. It's a new technology, or I can say it's a new framework, okay, available, called as what ADBC. What this ADBC will do, ADBC also ADBC also will make use of what native SQL only. Okay, so by using this ADBC API, I can interact with what HANA database, I can interact with non-HANA database, whatever it is, I can connect it to what any kind of what database. So this is what we follow in the new developments. Am I clear? If you take our HANA database, how do we access the HANA native objects? Means by using something called as what ADBC. So ADBC is like it's a framework. It's a framework. So again, ADBC also will internally use what native SQL only. Okay, but again the question would come, when already we are having native SQL, when we are already going to use what, when already we are able to use native SQL in our ABAP reports, why we have to use ADBC again? Okay, so how do we use this native SQL in our ABAP reports? We use something called as what execute. Okay, in between what and execute, you'll put your SQL statement. Okay, in our ABAP reports, if you want to use your native SQL, we enclose that particular native SQL statement between execute and what end execute. Okay, now, yeah, now what is the advantage of this using this ADBC is, ADBC also will use native SQL only, but the main advantage is ADBC follows object oriented approach. ADBC follows what object oriented approach. So when it uses object oriented approach, obviously it will increase your performance, and ADBC has got better support for what exception handling. If you take our direct native SQL statements, uh, even if you have any errors in the native SQL statements, it will not show any errors in the compilation time, in the design time when you do the syntax check. It will throw the runtime errors only on the execution. Okay, but whereas in case of ADBC, since it follows object oriented approach, it has got better support for what exception handling. Okay, so that is why SAP is recommending to use what ADBC. And the advantage of this ADBC is, again, I can connect to what any of the database. I can connect to HANA database, non-HANA database, whatever it is. Okay, the statements will be what same, but we have to use a framework related to what ADBC. So now what we are going to do, as part of HANA database, we have created some procedures. I need to consume that procedure from the ABAP report by using what ADBC. Whereas in the first approach, what you are doing, we need to expose our what HANA procedure as what database procedure proxy, so that I can call that particular procedure proxy from our ABAP report. Here we use what ADBC technology. Again I repeat, ADBC also uses what native SQL. Okay, again the question will come when we can use direct native SQL student, why we have to go for ADBC. Okay, again it is a developer choice. ADBC will improve the performance. ADBC follows object-oriented approach, so we have all the features: encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and it has got better support for what exception handling, which is not possible in case of what native SQL. Native SQL, if you have any problem in your SQL statement, native SQL statement, it will give the error in the runtime, But whereas here, by using this exception handling, we can handle that what runtime errors in a better way, right? So, any questions in this part, please ask. Okay, so now what I'll do is, let us understand the architecture of this particular ADBC. So if you are from Java platform, we have what JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. If you know that process, understanding this ADBC also will be what very much easy. So we need to follow some standard steps. Okay, what are the steps you have to follow is, first we need to establish the what database connection. Okay, to whichever database you want to communicate, we need to explicitly establish the what connection. So how do we establish means, so one second please. I'm just connecting to the server, just hold on please. Yeah, so see here, let me just log on to our GUI. Okay, I'll connect to that SAP system which is using what HANA database. Oh, yeah. So as I told you, this ADBC follows what object oriented approach. So if you go to this class builder, okay, we have one class called as CL underscore SQL underscore connection. CL underscore SQL underscore connection. What is this class here? It is a public class. It can be used for what? Connecting to what? Database. This class contains contains one second please. Oh, sorry, that's what I'm getting. I scroll down here. Okay, yeah, you can see there is a method here called as what get underscore what connection. Get underscore connection opens a connection to what database. Okay, whichever database you want to communicate, you have to give the ID of that particular database. So this particular method would take some what parameter. What are the parameters? Taking a connection name, database connection name, it is asking single character flag, done. Okay, we'll see it practically. So this is the first method you have to use. First thing you have to do is we have to set up the database connection. Okay, that's what I documented here. What is the next step here? So what is the class we are going to use here? We are going to use a class called as what? CL underscore SQL underscore connection. In that, just now I told you we have a method. What is this method? Static public method. So already we know object oriented. Static public means I can access by using what? Class name. So by using the class name itself, I'll I have to call a method called what? Get connection. Then the next step you have to follow is for any kind of requirement, this is the only process you have to follow. That's why I'm detailing the steps here. Okay, instantiate. There is something called a statement object. If you know Java JDBC, there also we have what a statement class. Okay, instantiate the statement object. So this, how do we instantiate means, again for this we have a class called as cl underscore SQL underscore statement. Yeah, cl underscore SQL underscore. It's a public statement. Okay, so I can create the object. So we need to instantiate the statement object. You have to create the object for this particular class. So what is the class I need to use here? Cl underscore SQL underscore what? Statement. Done. And the next step is we need to construct what? The SQL query. We need to construct this SQL query. What is the SQL query you want to invoke? You have to construct that particular SQL query. Then what is the next step you have to do? Construct the SQL query. Okay, here one thing you have to understand is compatible with it is compatible with what? HANA Studio. Am I clear? So already we know how to use that SQL console. So if it is executing there, it will execute here also. It should be compatible with what? HANA Studio. Okay, done. And the next step is means it should be able to recognize in what? HANA Studio. Then the next step is what? Execute the native SQL call. Execute the native SQL call. So again I can what? Subdivide this. How do we execute means? Yeah. No, just here. 1 second, please. Yeah. If I go to this CL underscore SQL underscore statement, in this basically we have what? Some 4 statements. Okay. So if you want to execute any select query, I need to use a method called as what? Execute underscore what? Query. Execute underscore query. Okay. This is for what purpose? For what? For executing what? Select statements. For executing the select statements. Done. This is the first method, execute underscore query. Then if you go back to the same statement class, execute underscore what? DDL. Execute underscore DDL, data definition language. So the other method we need to use is execute underscore DDL. This is for executing what? DDL statements. When I say DDL statements, I can say what? Create, okay, create a drop, okay, alter. All this comes under what? DDL statements. Or the next method we need to use is or execute underscore update. Execute underscore update. Execute underscore update. Okay, sorry, execute underscore, and this is for what? Executing what? DML statements, data manipulation language. Like if you want to execute insert, update, or what? Delete, will go for what? This particular one. Now as of our initial requirement, we are going to execute a procedure. So for procedure also they gave a dedicated method. What is this? Execute underscore procedure. What is that? Execute a stored procedure. So the next method which we can use is execute underscore what? Procedure. This is for executing what? Stored procedures. Okay, so this is the next step that we need to do. Okay, next, after executing this, what is the next step here? Yeah. you need to assign what? Assign a variable, assign the target variable for your result set. Okay, assign the target variable for result set. Again, for this we have a dedicated class cl underscore SQL underscore result set. Yeah, cl underscore SQL underscore what? Result set. Sorry, one second. Let it come. So we need to use a class called as what? cl underscore SQL underscore what? Result underscore set. Okay, in this what we use different methods. Again, we have multi methods like setter method, set parameter, set parameter table is there. Like this we have many methods. So one is set underscore param method, or set underscore param underscore table if you are dealing with what internal tables. Like this we have some setter methods we need to call that. This is the next step. Okay, and the next step is, after assigning the target variable done, then what you have to do is we need to read, we need to retrieve what? Result set. Okay, we need to retrieve the result set. Second. One second, please. It's taking time. Fine. We need to retrieve the result set. Again, for this, again you have to use the same class cl underscore SQL underscore what? Result set. In this class, there is one method called as package, not package, next package. It's a what? Static method. Next underscore package. Just like if you want to read the data from the cursor, okay, we use what? Fetch statement. Fetch statement. Okay. Then the next step is better we close the queries. Close the query, and the next step is close your database connection. Close the database connection. So overall we are around what? 7 to 8 steps. Yeah, around 8 steps are there. So the important classes in this ADBC are basically three classes. What are they? CL SQL connection, CL SQL statement, and CL underscore SQL underscore what? Result set. Okay, so one second. Yeah, you can see in the CL underscore SQL underscore result set class. What is this class? It is a private class. Okay, it is a private class resulting set of an SQL query. I cannot directly create the object. So as I told you, this class contains some setter methods. Yeah, set parameter work area, set parameter table. And to read the data from the result set, we have next package. Yeah, read next set of data records into what? Internal table. Okay, then we have method what? Close the query, all those things. Okay, done. Okay, so now let me just quickly show you one example to understand how to use this particular class. So actually what we have to do here, we have created the procedure in our what? Assume that we have created the procedure in the HANA database. We need to consume it. So as I told you, we can consume it in what? Two ways. One is by using what? Database procedure proxy concept, and by using what? ADBC. Now we are trying to understand how to work with what? ADBC. Okay, in the next class again we'll see in detail, okay, this all these steps practically. Now let me go for what? ADBC. So initially let me try to access a normal what? Table. So in this particular system, one second. Yeah, if you see here, this is what database it is using here? HANA database. It is using what? HANA database. Done. So now if I go to this ABAP dictionary, okay, we have many tables. Okay, let me go for what? Something what? VBAK table, or let me go for some KN1 table. Okay, it has got many records. Okay, it has got some 301 records. So let me take this KN1 table. So from this KN1 table, I want to get some fields like customer number, name one, and what? ORT 01. So how do we do it in our normal traditional ABAP? Suppose I want to get all these records, any of your few records. Yeah, I want to get all these 300 records and display it. So how do we do it in our what traditional ABAP programming? We will declare an internal table. We will write the select statement, and that select statement will hit the database and returns the data to your application layer. It stores the data in the internal table. We are going to loop it and what? Display it. Okay. Now I want to achieve the same thing by using what? ADBC framework, ADBC technology. So just try to understand SC38. I'll give ADBC underscore what? Access underscore access underscore table underscore data. Okay, so I'll be throughout the course will be what using this ADBC in multiple places as and when required. As of now, I'm executing what select query. So z ADBC underscore access underscore table data done. So access customer data using what ADBC type of program. I'll go for executable program. Let me save it in the local object. Done. One second. Right. How to increase this font? I'm unable to do it. I increase it. Okay, fine, leave it. So what is the first step I have to do here? Let me follow that steps. What is the first step here? Establish the database connection. So as of now, what I want, I'm trying to write a ABAP program which has to talk with its underlying database. What is the underlying database? HANA database. Okay. So if you see this one, okay, it is using the HANA database. So I want to establish the database connection. Okay, so establish the database connection to what? HANA database. Done. So how do we establish? I need to call a method called as what? Get underscore connection, which is available as part of which class? CL underscore SQL underscore what? Connection. So if you go to class builder once again, just now I shown you that CL underscore SQL underscore what? Connection. This is the class. If I display this class contains one static public method get underscore what? Connection. So before calling this method, let us check the parameters. Yeah, it has got, yeah, there are two importing parameters. Both these importing parameters are what? Optional. Both these importing parameters are optional. You may or may not pass. And already we know returning parameters are always what? Optional, but I require this. Okay, so what it is returning here? It is returning, try to understand. This method, when I access this method, it is returning the object of what? A class called as what? CL underscore SQL underscore connection. I mean to say same class. So I require this connection object for accessing the further methods. Okay, and connection name is what? Optional. If you don't give this connection name, by default it will try to connect to what? Underlying database. This application service connected to what? HANA database. So it will try to connect to what? Underlying database. Okay, so what I'll do now is the first step is establish the database connection data. Okay, so I'll say something O underscore connection Okay, type ref2, what is the class lcl underscore what connection, lcl underscore connection. Okay, it is going to return, sorry, not lcl, cl underscore sql underscore connection, I'm sorry. So this is cl underscore sql underscore connection. There are no mandatory parameters. Does it have any exceptions? I'll put the cursor in this method get connection. I'll go to exceptions. Yes, it might raise an exception of so and so class, from so and so exception class, cx underscore sql underscore exception. So what I'll do is let me try to use the pattern. Since it's a global class, I can use the pattern. I'll go to pattern, ABAP objects pattern. It is a static method, so I can call it by using what class name. What is the class name? cl underscore sql underscore what connection. And what is the method name? Get underscore what connection is the method name. Done. Okay, it is proposing the try and catch because it might raise the exception. So one of the feature of using adbc is what? Better support for what? Exception handling, which is not possible, through our normal native SQL statements. Okay, exporting, yeah, these are optional. Okay, I'll receive it inside my connection variable what o underscore con. Done. And catch if there is any problem. Okay, if there is any problem, so how shall I proceed now? Okay, okay, it is 1 second please. Let me check the signature. It is returning the, it might raise the exception from which class? cl underscore sql underscore what exception. Okay, so since we know object oriented, somewhere here I'll say data. Okay, data o underscore what sql underscore exception. Okay, type ref2, what is the class from which it is going to raise the exception? cx underscore sql underscore what exception. cx underscore sql underscore exception. From this class it might raise the exception. Done. And again, I want the standard exception message, so I'll take another parameter. I'll say lv underscore msg type what string. Okay, so what I'll do with this is, observe here. Here I'll say into what lv underscore msg. Okay, so hope everyone are strong in object oriented. What I am trying to do here? I am trying to what open the connection to my underlying database. When I am trying to establish a connection, I am not giving any connection name. If I don't give any connection name, it will by default refer to the underlying database. Okay, if any problem is there in connecting to that database, it might raise the exception from so and so class. So in case if it raises the exception, what happens here? It will internally create the object of that exception class, and that object will be assigned to our reference. Oh, I'm sorry. It should not message. I'm sorry. Into what? O underscore SQL underscore what? exe. Okay. So I repeat once again. If any exception is raised in the catch block, in the try block, SAP will create the object of the exception class, whichever is raising the exception, and that object properties will be assigned to what? So and so what? Object. So that this reference becomes what? Object. And once we get the exception class object, already we know every exception class contains some two methods, get text and get long text. Get text will return short exception message. Get long text will return what? Long exception message. Let me cross check here also. When I double click on that, yeah, here also you can see get text and what? Get long text. Okay, so what I'll do now is I am interested to call which method? Get underscore text. Get underscore text. What is the syntax of this? It returns a parameter of type what? String. Okay, that's why I declared a variable of type string here. So here I'll say lv underscore msg, or else why it will be like this, I'll use a pattern. In the pattern, what is the object I would receive? O underscore SQL underscore exe. Okay, and what is the class? CX underscore SQL underscore what? Exception. CL underscore SQL underscore exception. One second. Exception. What is the method I'm interested to call? Get underscore what? Text. Get underscore text. When I browse that, get underscore text is not the direct method of this class, it is a method of an interface. Okay, one second. Since this is the first program, I am doing it elaborately. Going forward, what I'll do is the steps would remain as it is same. Instead of execute query method, I may call execute update method, or I may call execute underscore procedure method. Okay, just I need to replace that particular part. So since this is the first example, I am discussing it elaborately. One second, it got stuck. I pressed F4. So if you see this, it might raise exceptions from this class. Okay, this class contains some two methods, get text and get long text. Get text is not the direct method, it is a part of a interface. If underscore what? Message. So that's what I'm trying to, yeah, you can see. I'll call this method get underscore text, done. Okay, it returns a string. I'll receive it in my variable lv underscore what? Msg, done. And here I'll say I'll flash the message. So here I'll simply say message what? LV underscore message type what? I information message. So I repeat once again, the first step is we need to establish the connection by calling a method get, by calling the static method get connection of the class so and so. This method will take the connection name as input. If you don't provide any input parameter, if you don't put input parameter, it will try to connect to the underlying database. If it is successfully connected, it is going to return the object of which class CL underscore SQL underscore connection. In case if there is any problem in connecting to that particular database, it will raise the exception from so and so class. So internally it creates the object for that exception class, and that object properties will be assigned to our reference. Once our reference becomes object, using that object I can call the method get text or get long text to capture the standard exception message instead of flashing our own message. Done. This is the first step. Okay. What I'll do? Yeah, yeah,
Can I ask you?
yeah, yeah.
So if my underlying database is like Oracle, but my secondary database is HANA database. So how this first statement get connection is going to work? Like we need to pass explicitly hard code that
Yeah.
HANA database.
Yes, yes. Whichever is the database you want to connect, the database will have the ID. Okay, you need to give that
Right.
particular ID. Just like anyhow, I'll try to demonstrate this practically. Okay,
Because most of the cases it's going to be like
correct,
HANA is a secondary database, right? So
correct.
we
Yeah,
should
yeah.
explicitly
Yes,
mention that, right?
yes, yes,
Probably, yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay. Anyhow, I'll cover that. Don't worry, I'll cover that. Okay. So as of now, we are connecting to what? Underlying database, which is nothing but ANA database. Done. What is the next step I need to do here? Next step is instantiate the statement object, it seems. Instantiate the statement object. How do we instantiate? We have to create the object for which class CL underscore SQL underscore what? Statement. Can I create the object for that class? I can create only if it is a what? Public class. Okay, so let me try to open that. CL underscore SQL underscore what? Statement. Yes, CL underscore SQL underscore statement is a class. Can I create the object directly? Yes, it is a public class. I can create. Again, before we create the object for any class, we need to check the constructor of that class. We need to check for the instance constructor of that class. If I go to the because instance constructor might contain mandatory parameters. If it contains mandatory parameters, you must pass the values at the time of creating the object itself. So yes, it has got instance constructor. Does it have any parameters? All are optional only. All are optional only, but we'll be passing this. What is this? Connection underscore ref is expecting the object of which class? CL underscore SQL underscore connection, because the statement should be related to that particular database connection. Okay, so it is expecting the object of CL underscore SQL underscore connection, which already received in the earlier step. So this is the first step. The next step is what? Instantiate the statement objects. Already I created the reference. Now did I create it? No, I have not created the reference. Let me create now. So I'll say data what? O underscore SQL type ref2. What is the class? CL underscore SQL underscore what? Statement. Let me use the pattern because it is a global class. Create object. What is the class? O underscore SQL underscore SQL is a object name. CL underscore SQL underscore statement is the class name. Done. Okay, all are optional, but this statement should lead to what connection? The connection object which is received in the earlier step. O underscore what? Con. Done. Okay, done. So let me save it. Up to this is fine. What is the next step here? Construct the SQL query which is compatible with what? HANA Studio. Okay, construct the SQL. Okay, what I want to get the data from what? K11 table. Okay, so the next step is construct what? SQL query. Okay, so let me take one local variable lv underscore SQL type what? String. Okay, SQL type string. I'll say lv underscore SQL is equal to, I'll just say select what? Customer number or okay, I don't have the structure, custom structure. I'll go for star. We should not go for star, but time is passing off, just using star there. Select star from which table? K11 table. Done. Okay, so I have constructed the select query. Constructing the sense what? Oh, this is ABAP, right? So that you period. Okay, constructing the sense what? Just assign that particular select statement to a what? A variable kind of thing. What is the next step here? Execute the native SQL call. Execute the native SQL call. Okay, so before I execute this, assign the target variable for what? Result set. Okay, yeah, one important point here. Now the next step I'll do is, yeah, I'll say data. I'll explain this going forward. Data O underscore data type ref to what? Data. Type ref to data. Then I'll say we have a statement here, get reference of. Oh, I have not declared that. Okay, so here I'll say data what? Data t underscore kn1 type table of kn1. I'm directly referring to the entire structure. I'll declare a work area also. Type what? Kn1. Okay, now get reference of what is the target internal table here? T underscore what? Kn1. Get reference of t underscore kn1 into the dynamic variable. What is that I declared? O underscore what? Data. O underscore data. I'll explain that later on. Just leave it for the timing. Done. What is the next step after this? The next step is we need to execute a the native SQL call. So since I want to execute the select statement, I need to call which method? Execute underscore query, which is available as part of the class what? CL underscore SQL underscore what? Statement. So in this class, we have a method called as execute underscore query. So why I am choosing this method only? Because I want to execute what? Select statement. So execute underscore, it's an instance method. So I must call it by using the object. Does it have any parameters here? Yes, all are optional. One of the parameter is what? Statement of type what? String, which is nothing but your select statement. Yes, select statement being executed. And you enclose that in the variable LV underscore SQL. And what does it do? Yeah, this is also important. It returns the object of what? So and so class, CL underscore SQL underscore result underscore. So database cursor, it seems good. Database, just if you correlate this with our cursors concept, already I explained that elaborately. Declaring the cursor, opening the cursor. Whenever we open the cursor, the select statement associated with the cursor will be executed, and the output of that select query we call it as what? Active set. Okay, nothing but result set. Here also, whenever we execute that select query, it returns the object of which class? CL underscore SQL underscore what? Result underscore what? Set. So what is the next step I'll do here? The next step is execute the query. So for that I require the object. So I'll say data o underscore result. It is going to return the object of which class? CL underscore, what is that? CL underscore SQL underscore result underscore set. CL underscore SQL underscore result underscore set. Done. I'll use the pattern, ABAP objects pattern. What is the SQL object there? O underscore, sorry, O underscore SQL. What is the class? CL underscore SQL underscore what statement? What is the method? Execute underscore what query? Execute underscore query. Done, done, done. Okay, okay, done. It is having it, that particular method. That particular method might raise exceptions. It seems this method might raise exception from how many classes? Two classes. Okay, done. So always better to handle that particular exception. So I'll say try. Okay, exporting statement. What is the where is the SQL statement stored? In our variable what? LV underscore SQL. Done. Okay, result set is equal to what is that? O underscore what? Result. O underscore result. Done. And in case if any exception is, control goes to what? Cache block. You have to give some appropriate exception handling statements here. Is my voice is audible to everyone?
Yes, Sridhar, it's audible.
Yeah, Surendra, a problem is from your end only. Problem is from your end only. Please relog in. Okay. So where we are now, we are executing the query. I'll get the object of what? CL underscore SQL underscore what? Result underscore set. Done. Up to this is fine. What is the next step here? So I executed which method? Which method I called? Execute underscore query. Okay. And the next step is what? Assign the target variable for the result set. Okay. Assign, what is the method I have to use? Set param at set param table. So in this case it is a what? Internal table. So the next step is assign target variable for what? Result set. So in the previous step I got the object of which class? When I call this method, I will get the object of this result set class. When I navigate to this result set class, I am having a method called as set underscore param underscore what? Table. Okay, set internal table as what? Output parameter. Done. Instance method I have to call it by using the object. What does it expect? Good. You can see here it is expecting one mandatory parameter which is a reference of what? Data. Which is a reference of what? Data. 1 second, please. Done. So where we are now? So I need to call this method. It is expecting a mandatory parameter of type what? Data. That's the reason I declared one parameter. What is that? I declared one variable. What is that? O underscore data. Type ref to what? Data. So here I have to say, I have to call that method. So let me go for what? Pattern. It's an instance method. So what is that? O underscore result. O underscore result. What is the method? CL underscore SQL underscore result underscore set. What is the method I need to call? Set underscore param underscore what? Table. Because that select query whatever I wrote is going to return me multiple records. So that's the reason I'm calling this method set param table. Yeah, I got it. Oh, again it has got some exception. Better to handle it. itab underscore ref is equal to, what is that I declared? O underscore data. Na? Where is that? O underscore data. Type ref to what? Data. So O underscore data, done, and all these are optional. Catch block, done. Okay, so we have assigned the target variable for what? Result set. So whatever the data is there, it will come and sit here. What is the final step here? Retrieve the result set. How do you retrieve? Yeah, again by using what? Same object. I have to call a method called as what? Next underscore what? Package. It will read the entire data now. So if you go back to the result set class, we have a method what? Next underscore what? Package. Read a next set of data records into internal table. Next underscore package. It is an instance method. Does it any parameters? I'm just checking for the parameters. I know there are no parameters available. So the next step is, what is that? Retrieve the result set. So I'll say, 1 second please, it got stuck. Just hold on. Yeah, retrieve the result set. So what is the method I have to call here? Next underscore package. Yeah, good. You can see the signature here. Doesn't have any mandatory importing parameters. Okay. So it is asking how many records you want to get. Maximum number of records to get. So if I don't pass this parameter, it will return all the records. It will read all the records. If I say 5, it will read only up to first 5 records. That is the meaning. Okay. So there is no mandatory parameter. Let me try to use the pattern. So I'll go to pattern. One second. Yeah, so I'll go to pattern. Want the same thing. What is the method to call? Next underscore what? Package. Next underscore package I'm calling, done. So again it is having exception might be. I'm not using any exporting the row set. Yeah, what it is going to return me? Acha. This receive is also on your optional. Na? I am not going to receive it. Returning parameters are also what? Optional. It has got multiple exception classes. We need to handle that. Done. What is the final step? Close the what? Query. Close the query and close the database connection. Okay. Close the query and close the database connection. So I'll say, so here I'll say same object. What is that? Result set object. O underscore what? Result of. It has got one method. Already I've shown you that. What is that method? Close method. Yeah, close method. Okay. This close method doesn't have any. What is it? Close resulting set. It closes. Even if you don't close, also it works fine. But the better programming is whenever we open any resources, better we close it. Okay. Done, done, that's it. Okay, now the next step is, yeah, what is your internal table? What is the internal table? T underscore kn1. So here I'll say if T underscore kn1 is not initial, if it is not initial, i'll just I'll just loop at T underscore kn1 into w underscore what? Kn1, right? I'm interested only in few fields. What are the customer number, name one, and city? ORT01. Done. End loop. Done. Then I'll say else. Okay, I'll just give a message. What is that? No data type what I, and end for if is what? End if. Yeah, and this is for the main connection. Done. Okay, let me save it. Check for the syntax error. No errors. Good. I'll activate this. Okay, let me test it first, then I'll explain again. I'll debug one by one and explain. Let me execute this quickly. Good. So I got the data. I got the customer number, customer name, and what? Customer city. Done, done, done. Okay, let me give the breakpoints and explain quickly. See here. I'm putting the breakpoint first here. Right. What is the first step I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to what? Establish the what? Connection. I'm trying to establish the connection here. Okay, how to establish the connection? We are calling a static method get connection. As of now, connection object is initial. When I say f6, yeah, connection object got created. So it is successfully pointing to my underlying database. So it is returning the object of this class. Done. Then I'm instantiating the statement object. As of now, this is initial. When I say f6, yes, statement object also successfully got instantiated on top of this connection. Then I'm constructing my select query. I'm constructing my select query. Okay, this is my select query. Done. And you can see here, I declared our internal table. What is the internal table? T underscore KN1 is my internal, which has got 0 records at this stage. And I declared another reference of what type? Data. O underscore data is what? Initial. Now I am saying get reference of T underscore KN1 into O underscore data. So this is a new statement which is introduced. So what is the meaning of this? Get reference of T underscore KN1 into O underscore data means it will establish the link between T underscore KN1 and what? O underscore data. So when I say F5, yeah, you can see now, observe this carefully. O underscore data is also referring to the same structure now. See, 238, no data as of now. So there's a link, a pointer link between this O underscore data and T underscore KN1. Then what I'm doing, I'm executing the select query. If you see O underscore result is initial, when I'm saying F6, yes, I got the result set object. Okay, using that result set object, I am calling which method? Set parameter table. So see what happens. As of now, T underscore KNY is blank, O underscore data is also blank. So what is the target variable I'm setting here? O underscore data. Why I am using this method? Because it is holding what? Multiple records. It is holding multiple records, means nothing but internal table. Okay, so target variable is O underscore data. We are assigning the target variable for result set. So when I say F6 here, observe this. Done. Okay, so any change happened here? Nothing happened. Done. Next, what I have to do here, we have to read the data. How do you read the data? So we have linked that particular target variable the result set. Now I am reading the data. How do you read the data? In cursor we use fetch statement. Here I'll say next package. What this method will do, from the description we understood, it is going to return all the records. Okay, so when I say F6, still both are empty now. When I say F6, good, you can see data is populated to O underscore data. At the same time, it got populated to what? T underscore KN1, because there is a link between this T underscore KN1 and what? O underscore data, and rest of the part is simple. I'm just looping it and displaying it. I got the data. Okay, so the main confusion point here is this one. What is this O underscore data kind of thing? Where is it? Yeah, this is confusion. So don't try to remember this. If you see the signature of this method set param table, what it is expecting? It is expecting the reference of what? Data only. Na? So with that knowledge, I also declared what? O underscore data as what type? Type ref to what? Data. And then Okay, so since this always takes O underscore data, it will not take our internal table directly. Okay, so before I execute this method, I need to establish the link. I need to establish the link between my final internal table and this O underscore data. Okay, how do you establish the link? Like this: get reference of T underscore care into O underscore data means whenever the data is populated to O underscore data, it will be assigned to T underscore K1 and vice versa also. Pointer concept. So this is how we execute our SQL query. Any questions, please ask me. I know this is confusion, but it requires practice. Anyway, we are going to discuss multiple examples. I'll try to call all these methods, execute procedure, execute DDL in multiple places, then you'll understand. Once we complete this part, we'll go to this part, database proxies. Any question?
Sridhar, regarding the connection, in generally ADBC concept or a JDBC concept is all these four steps is one is prerequisite for another one.
Okay, correct. Yes.
Huh?
Based on
But
the.
but here but here uh, all are the optional parameters. Some of the especially the connection object is optional for the statement class. So if I won't write the connection class and if I only write the statement class, so I won't provide any object to the statement class. Is it going to take the underlying database connection or how it is works?
Okay, good point. Okay, I have not tried it to be frank. Let me just comment this. You are saying this only, na? You don't want to associate the connection object with the SQL statement, right? Like this. So I commented what? Connection object with what? SQL. This is what you are asking, Pulara?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah. Now rest of the part remains same. Rest of the part remains same. So again, here the understanding is what? Since we have not given any connection name, it is referring to what? Underlying database. Similarly, here also for a SQL statement, we are not giving any what? We are not assuming the connection statement. So obviously, this also should refer to the underlying database. Let me cross check. Execute this. Yes, yes, done. So it is referring to what? Underlying database only.
Perfect. Thanks. And the connection for the generally we see ADBC or a JDBC, it have the drivers in the connections, multiple drivers or something. How it is works here?
That is abstracted here. There we have to in
Abstract.
JDBC. There we have to explicitly load the drivers. Okay,
Yes.
we need to create that OData data source. You're talking about that only, na? OData data source.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, OData
Mm-hmm.
data source, which is going to refer to that database physically. Okay, but here why they have abstracted that feature here is in case if you want to connect to the explicit database, anyway we are going to give the ID here, na? That ID is sufficient to point to what external database. There it is two
Okay.
lines. Is it clear, Bulara?
Yeah. Yeah. I got it.
Yeah. Any other things?
But
And
Sridhar, is
the
it?
reference table thing is up to us to we can handle to the field symbols as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, that is yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that scenario also will come, Polaro. I'll take one field symbol one and I'll put the data into that. Yeah.
Sridhar, is it worthy having this ADBC when there is HANA is as a underlying database? Because anyway
No, no.
you
Here,
know
here what I told, it can be HANA database, it can be non-HANA database also.
okay.
Understood?
Because okay, so yeah, so we can either go for OpenSQL or
Yes.
this one, right? Okay, yeah.
No, no, no. ADBC always uses native SQL.
Yeah, but other way, like, to get the same output, we can also
Yeah,
use
yeah.
OpenSQL.
Yes. That is a traditional ABAP you are saying.
Okay. But usually, like, ADBC is recommended only when we have to retrieve the data from, HANA is outside of your SAP, right? Outside of your, database, which is not same.
In the set secondary you are saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not recommended, but we have the option whether it is primary or secondary. We can go for this ADBC.
Yeah, both the cases. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
both those. Okay, so practice this. I'll share all these things. Next class will again have it on Monday. Okay, Monday we'll try to consume our procedure in using both the techniques. One is using database proxy procedure, and another is using what ADBC procedure. Okay, chalo then. So I'm winding off. We'll continue on Monday.